boy made 4 runs last week.
Deputies chasing for 20 miles.
Make sure of it now and then.
Comes greed and violence.
I could have killed you last night. If you could have killed me, you would have.
Randy Quaid is a sheriff on the take.
Special agents have been sent up here to put an end to your operation. I think they're on to our little ranger.
Kyle MacLachlan is a bootlegger running from the feds.
There's a difference between fast and dangerous. I'm fast. They're dangerous.
And one woman is caught between the two of them.
Michael comes around all the time like he owns the place and me. He scares me, Chad.
Now, one little town is turned upside down.
Last thing we need around here is a war.
Your boys run liquor down this mountain, I'll stop.
Here we go. Time to rock and roll, man.
Starring Randy Quaid of Days of Thunder and Midnight Express, and Kyle MacLachlan of Showgirls, The Flintstones, and Twin Peaks. Moonshine Highway.
Set the Wayback Machine.
Yes, sir, Mr. Peabody.
This is Bill Warner of the Amelia Island Concord Delegates, and you're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, listeners, welcome. You're tuned in to Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and I'm your show host, Robert. Run your computers and Google TAN Talk 1340.com, and you can see us live here in the studios in downtown Clearwater. Don't forget to check out our website, GulfstreamMotorsports.com, where you can find out all about us. And if you want to listen to all our 12 and a half years worth of shows, go to nostalgicradiocars.com. Good evening, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you? I like that. That's a new way to say it.
You like that one, huh?
Just say 12 and a half years of shows instead of trying to remember how many exactly. Because then you got to say like 640 plus.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway.
But 12 and a half years, that works.
That works.
You could say that till May now.
I can say that till May. That's exactly right. Well,
and
actually,
it becomes 13 years.
It becomes 13 years. 13 years on the air, live here in the studios in downtown Clearwater. That's amazing.
12 and 3/4 now.
Something like that? Okay, good. Well, anyway, hey, we got a great show for you tonight. We got a very special guest coming on, and we're back on track with automobile designers. Now, let me just throw out a few things here real quick. Of course, obviously, if you want to find out where all the car shows are, flacarshows.com. But coming up here in the next couple of weeks, of course, next week is Scottsdale Collector Car Week. And I was going to have some of my friends on from the Arizona Concourse, which they brought it back. And it's going to be bigger and better than ever. And it used to be years ago, it was at the Biltmore Resort and Spa in Phoenix. And it was just really cool because it was in the courtyard. And it was kind of in between all the little, let's like say, bungalows. Now, the Biltmore was designed by Lloyd Wright. So, and I'm I wanted to be an architect at one point in time in my life. Still do. A little late, but you never know. I like to draw. Anyway, and I love construction and I love automotive. My my background is basically real estate, construction, and automobiles. But at any rate, having said that, the Biltmore is just an absolutely stunning piece of history and just an amazing hotel. And, of course, RM has their auction there, our good friends over there at RM, Rob Myers and his team. And but the courtyard, it was limited to 3,000 people, and it was on the courtyard there on the grounds of the Biltmore Resort in Phoenix. And it was beautiful because they had somewhere between 70, 80, 90 cars. It's kind of like what you would call a boutique concourse, but some of the finest cars and just exquisite cars and rare cars and unique cars. And it was a good mix. It was like, pre-war classics, the big American heavies out of the 30s, 50s cars, 50s classics, your Cadillacs and your Thunderbirds and your DeSotos and your Imperials and your Lincolns and all those really cool American-made cars, Packards, of course. And then, of course, 70s, 80s, and then a lot of European sports cars. And I'm a closet sports car guy. But anyway, so it was just a spectacular event. So I wish those guys the best of luck. Also, you have Gooding's auction. You have, Barrett-Jackson, which is the big one. And if you've never been to Barrett-Jackson, you've got to go. You got and the show that they do outside of Scottsdale is great. like they do in West Palm Beach. But you have to get the true experience of Barrett-Jackson. You have to go to Scottsdale. And you've got to be there for the, obviously the Thursday and Friday night. And at any rate, that's next week. And then, one of the cool shows that they have there at the event is it's at the Pavilion is the name of the apartment or the shopping center. 1,000 cars. I mean, it's just coming and going all day long. I mean, they parked their cars there the night before. And so, we you just have a really, really great time. Okay. And then, of course, the other thing that's coming up here in the next week, too, is Cavallino, which is all Ferraris down at the Breakers Hotel in West Palm Beach. And we also have the what else is coming up? The Rockabilly Show, which I kind of wanted to go to. I think it's this weekend. And it's at the Seminole Casino down in Immokalee, of all places. Now, they're expecting quite a few cars, 400, 500, 600 cars there. So that ought to be with bands, entertainment, and all kinds of. So Google that. Rockabilly Show down in Immokalee, Seminole. And then, of course, our good friends in Sumter County next month are going to have the Vintage Truck Show at the Sumter County Fairgrounds. Bobby, on that note, I think what we're going to do is we're going to fire up. No. You're going to go to commercial.
Yeah, I think we'll do that.
Do the commercial, then we'll do the song, and then we'll do the clip. No, we don't have a clip. We'll do the song, and then we'll get our guests on.
Yeah, how about I do some producing here?
You do some producing,
and then we'll do that. All right, here we go. Looking for car shows? Then look no further than FLAcarshows.com. On your computer or on your mobile device, FLAcarshows.com is a comprehensive list of automotive events, plus videos and news articles. Whether you're looking for car shows, cruise-ins, meetups, automotive festivals, cars and coffees, or anything else relating to an internal combustion engine, then this is a site for you. Check it out online or on your phone at FLAcarshows.com.
You may be owed some money. After 911 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-1741. Call Gulfstream Motorsports for a diminished value report. Due to my 28 years experience in the auto salvage business, I'm very good with wrecks. So if your car's been involved in a wreck, call me for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may be owed some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
Mid-afternoon, I could tell by how far the child's shadow stretched out, and he walked with a purpose in his sneakers. Down the street he had many questions, like children often do. He said, tell me all your thoughts on God. Tell me, am I very far? Must have been late afternoon. On our way, the sun broke free of the clouds. We count only blue cars, skip cracks in the street, and ask many questions, like children often do. We said, tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I really like to meet her and ask her why we're who we are. Tell me all your thoughts on to see her. So tell me, am I married? Oh, am I married by now? It's getting cold, picked up the pace. How our shoes make hot noises in this place. Our clothes are stained. We pass money, cross our people and ask many questions like children often do. Tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I'd really like to meet her and ask her why we're who we are. Tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I'm on my way to see her. So tell me, am I married?
Hey, sports fans, Peter Rock here from DRE Racing and Airport Shows. Listen to Nostalgic Radio and Cars, the best automobile show in the Southeast.
Okay, we're back in the tune. It's Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and I'm delighted to introduce our special guest for the evening. This gentleman is a well-known Detroit, I'm going to say contemporary automobile designer, and worked for Ford Motor Company, and he's also credited with being the chief lead stylist on the 2005-2006 Ford GT, one of my favorite cars. I'm delighted to welcome to the show this evening, Camilo Pardo. Camilo, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Great to be on your show.
Well, thank you. So how are things up in Detroit? You got a lot of white stuff on the ground up there?
No, it's just cold and wet.
Just cold and wet. Okay.
Just enough to keep my Mustang off the street.
You keep your Mustang off the streets. Okay. Well, speaking of Mustangs, what was your first car? I got to ask you that.
All right. In 1979, my mom gave me $400 and I went and bought a 72 Roadrunner.
A Mopar? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I had to rebuild the clutch on it. And before I graduated, I bought a Barracuda, a 70 Barracuda.
Okay,
Those
good
were
car.
my cars in high school.
Okay, good. You had a good start.
Mm-hmm.
So
Focus.
what was the driving force that got you interested in design, art, and specifically automobiles? What when did that revelation take place in your world?
Well, I was just a kid growing up in New York City around the late 60s and early 70s. And that's when all the great cars hit the street. You know, we had fantastic Mustangs, Corvettes, Cobras. You know, you'd see a Daytona, you know, with the big wing go by, you know, and that kind of stuff, you know, really hit me hard and got me excited, you know, about automotive design. And there was a lot of my family, uncles, and everybody. They kept me very well informed, you know, Indy and racing and Ferrari and all that. So all those cars that like you saw in Speed Racer, those Le Mans kind of things.
Yeah,
that is what made me want to be a car designer.
Okay, what part of New York were you from?
I was born in Manhattan. I grew up in Queens.
Oh, okay. All right. So you were really in the city.
Yeah, I was raised in the city the whole time. But I moved here young. I was 10 years old when I came to the Motor City. And from then on, it was just getting more specific about getting into, you know, the college for, college for creative studies. or art center to study automotive design and then go to one of the big three.
So when you were younger, did you have a natural propensity for drawing? I mean, your creativity and your art, was that just something that kind of worked for you, or did you have to kind of work at it?
I come from a family of architects.
Oh, really?
My mother was a painter. So in New York, we frequent the Museum of Modern Art and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So those were my playgrounds.
Oh, interesting. So I too at one point wanted to be an architect. That was my goal when I was younger. And then of course I'm from Northern Cal, so everybody knew about the Art Center, College of Design, and our mutual friend Pete Brock went there, and a number of other people. So when you're a young kid growing up in Cal, you know, and you want to be a designer, that's where you want to go. If you're an architect, or if you want to be an architect, obviously you go to Stanford or someplace like that. But you're a big Lloyd Wright fan. So who were some of the architects of the day that kind of influenced your design process?
Well, I mean, visually, I think the Guggenheim was probably the most interesting building.
Okay.
The most interesting museum that we used to go to. I always wanted to take a skateboard to that thing and go all the way down.
Interesting. Also, your artwork has a little bit of futurism to it and a little mid-century flair to it. Tell us a little bit about that, because you have an interest in those areas of style.
Well, I was influenced a lot as a kid by people like Lichtenstein and Warhol, because they were like giant cartoons. You know, they were fun to look at. You know, the paintings, they were big and bright, and they looked like the Sunday Funnies, kind of, you know. That's what they were echoing. My mom was a big fan of Picasso, so La Guernica, the big war painting, was hanging at the MoMA. So we always looked at that, and I knew how to identify Picasso's work pretty quickly as a kid. He was a popular guy, you know, especially with the Latin community. I mean, as I got older, then, you know, there was other, you know, influences, Dali and all these abstract stuff, and then more specifics in the college of, you know, people that were doing figurative work. But I think Warhol was probably the funnest and coolest. And that kind of graphic quality went into my design work. So now we when you go to college for industrial design, that is like the engineering of art, you know. So people can be it's not hard to get a little rigid with industrial design, but if you have the flair of fine art, it gives it more of a abstract, organic feel. So it's a good combination to have, you know, the background of fine art as you're going into automotive design.
When you were at SEMA a few years back, I'm not sure when it was. It might have been 2015, 16, 17, somewhere around there. They were doing a seminar upstairs on design, I believe, and you were one of the guest speakers. And you pulled out some of on the screen, on the overhead, you had some of your drawings up there. And it was really very Jetson-y, you know, and very Sid Mead style, you know, very futuristic, you know. And I was really, really, truly impressed with that. And you were also involved in, I guess, designing. You had some furniture that you had designed. Tell us a little bit about some of those drawings and perhaps even that seminar up there.
Yeah, well, that's always that's an annual thing that is an engineering and design panel discussion, and it's always an honor to be part of that. You see some really cool people in it, other designers, and then more technical people. But it also gives you the opportunity to share, you know, some of your other stuff, your illustrations and different things that you may get into that reflect on design, like the furniture design and fashion design. That's a lot of fun because, like you said, the drawings look very futuristic, kind of like, and then Sid Mead, who, for people who don't know who that is, he's like the designer of Tron and Blade Runner and Star Trek and all this stuff. He was one of the world's best futurist designers. We learn this approach in the colleges, and that's our goal, to be, an advanced designer. The designers from the 60s, that were, at work with us, at Ford and everywhere else, and instructors at the colleges, those guys in the 60s, they were drawing really futuristic vehicles. And when you would get like an opportunity to just go all out, those things usually were flying cars.
Yeah.
They thought that by 2020, we would definitely be flying. So that's why there's that futuristic appeal in the illustration when it goes to advanced design. The furniture, all different products. You get exposure to all different products when you're in industrial design. And automotive transportation design is one area of industrial design. So you're exposed to all that stuff, and exciting furniture, advanced furniture is a very interesting area that is so much fun to approach, and easier too, outside of the fact that they have to be ergonomic, which means that you fit in it well. It's relating to the human body. So when you get to design those kind of things, it's you can push it harder than automotive design, because you're not going to hit a wall and burst into flames if you're in a chair. In your living room, there's no liability. I think you might fall out of the chair. But anyway, so it makes it safer, and you can push it hard. A group of friends from school, we formed this design group called Propeller, probably in the late 80s, 90s, and we got to do all this furniture that I would call sculptural furniture or functional sculpture. And it was all welding with some glass, sometimes concrete and rubber, but very industrial, but with a friendly approach and like a clever sense of humor. So it would sell to the nice housewives in the suburbs. Okay. It wasn't just like edgy punk rock nasty furniture. It was pleasant, and that was a lot of fun. We showed that furniture all over Detroit, a couple shows in Japan, and even out to Italy. So that was a great study of furniture design, and I got to show some of it at those discussions, and definitely some fashion. I did a lot of fashion, and I would show it at that engineering and design panel.
So when you talk fashion, you're talking about clothing, correct?
Yeah, fashion design. The fashion design involves with the surface of your anatomy. Most of my stuff was for girls, for runway stuff, and the anatomy of a girl has a lot of the same qualities that you'll find in some of the most exciting cars, like a P4 Ferrari, a Ford GT, a Corvette. And then when you got that kind of anatomy and form, then you put stripes on it, and it amplifies it, and it gets more exciting, and you have to divide it up into different colors and panels, and same thing goes on in fashion design, and you just have to do the patterns and sew it. So it's a great field, and I pursued it I still do some of it. I only do 1 or 2 outfits a year now.
Well, now you have a design company, and so you're no longer with Ford. You went out on your own. You've got your own design studio in Detroit, correct?
Yes.
So is fashion and furniture, are these things that you designed and then sell the design and then somebody builds them and produces them, or how does that work?
Most of the things that I design outside of the cars are like prototypes.
Okay.
So there's rarely more than one. You know, I do a concept, and if you design this seat or this coffee table, you will do one. I have seen some of my friends do a series. Sometimes I do a series of the fashion.
Okay.
But it's usually one of a kind. It's like an art piece almost, but it represents what could be done for production. And if you took it to another level and had it engineered for production purposes, it'd probably change just a little bit. And but it would be, you could make it feasible. But when you're doing stuff like that, it gets boring to do it twice.
Okay. Well, do people ever approach you and say, "Hey, look, I'd like to buy the rights to this this design concept and go into production"? I mean, does that happen?
Not really. People usually approach and they want that one.
Okay.
Like, I want that one. I want that, and that's it. And a lot of people like it if there isn't a second one.
Right.
It's a one of one. Which is, yeah.
Let me digress here for a second. You went to the Design School Center for Creative Studies in Detroit, and in California, it is the College of Art or College Design Center, Art Center College of Design. It's so. How do they compare?
Oh, well, I've gotten to know Art Center quite well now because my friends, teach there, and sometimes they bring me in to do demos. So, well, they're obviously very similar. I personally like the architecture of Art Center better. That's a beautiful building. It's like, I don't know what year it's from, but it's very, very technical. I mean, when I look at buildings like that, I want to live in it. I wish that was my house.
Well, now the one we're talking about now is the new building, because they had an old building years ago back in the 50s. That's back when the well-known Strother Mims, I guess, was there back then.
I met him, Strother McMahon.
Yeah,
he bought one of my paintings.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we had dinner. It's great to. I mean, the automotive design world is not that big, so you do get the opportunity to meet some of these people, great people. Like I actually worked for Bill Mitchell for a couple weeks. Strotter bought some of my art. I've gotten to know the Pininfarina guys. Giugiaro I know very well. The kid, his dad I've met quite a few times. But in this world of design, you get to you cross paths with all that. I was actually very good friends with Sid Mead. His house isn't very far from my studio in LA. And it's great to be around these masses. And then if you're related to the things that I've been working on with the GT and SVT and all the Shelby stuff, then you get to know people like Carol and Dan Gurney while they're alive. You get to know them well.
Well, we were in Las Vegas a few years back, and Peter Brock has his his gathering during that week of SEMA, and you were up there, and we were up there, and you and Pete had a real interesting conversation, and I was sitting there listening to you guys, and I took a picture of you and Pete drawing drawing a sketch, and you drawing yours, he kind of doing a few little things, and I thought that was very interesting because it's collaboration between someone like Peter Brock, obviously the father of the Daytona Coupe, and worked with Carroll Shelby, and then you kind of like very instrumental in the rebirth, the recreation of the redesign of the original Ford GT40, which now the GT. So what was that like for you, working with someone like Peter?
Well, it's like I said, it's fantastic to be able to meet and get to know these important people in the world of design. Mm-hmm. And with Peter, it's an interesting connection because when Carroll started, developing the Cobras and the Daytona Coupe from the Cobra, that was his designer, and I think that was basically his only designer. And then all those years went by, and then Ford, made the effort to reintroduce the Ford GT, and I got to work with Carroll, for his last few years, his last 10 years. So we were like the bookend, working with Carroll on a fantastic car.
How much input did Carroll have on the car?
Carroll was there, discussing the technical stuff.
Okay.
I can remember specific discussions like in the engine and all that, why we had to go with the engine that we did. But he told me, he says, Camillo, I've learned to stay out of that design stuff many years ago. And he just, you look at it and you tell me he liked it and it was great. So he didn't get involved with the aesthetic of the vehicle. He was there to make the vehicles win races. And that's what happened with the Mark I, which was the first Ford GT that was racing like in 1964 and 65. And when they let Carroll have at it, then he made it into the Mark II. Now, the Mark II is not as sexy in the rear area. It's a little bit more square, and there's some strange air intakes all over it, but it didn't matter. It still had great proportions. It was a fantastic car, but it was designed to win, and it won. And then they designed the Mark IV, and that was designed to win too. But that was a very, very like a racing geometry to the body of that car.
You started with Ford in what, around 1985, I think, 85, 86, somewhere around there?
Exactly.
So when you first started working at Ford, how did that work? Did they just go over to the design school center and just pluck you out? Did you have to submit anything? Did you have to qualify? How did that work? And why Ford and not Chrysler and General Motors?
Yeah, all the big three, they kind of watch over CCS like Fox, because that's their hometown environment, and they get to watch the students evolve from at the first sight. They get to see around second year, and they definitely got a scope on you third year, because fourth year they can't afford to have anybody else get the best guy or girl.
Okay.
It's just bad. It's bad for them. They have to take them, and it becomes a little, it gets competitive. And in the school, back when I went, the classes were really small. My first year, there was a graduation class of one guy from the automotive, the transportation department, and that was Kevin Hunter, who's at Calty. But then there was, the next year, there was the very large class of 4, and they held that for 2 years. And finally, my class was really large with 7. And we are all fighting to be the best in class. And when that happens, then, GM, Ford, and Chrysler come up and they want to make you an offer, and you pick one out. There's also a lot of companies, that came in from Japan and came in from Europe. I did an internship in France in my third year, so I didn't even do an intern at one of the big three. But by the time I graduated, Ford had the best offer, because I wanted to leave Detroit, and they said, "Well, we'll send you to Italy, Germany, and England." I said, "Well, I'm on it."
Oh wow, what was that like?
That was fantastic. Europe was a great place to get started, like in your early years. I got exposed to Europe in my third year, and my dream was to graduate from college and get the hell over to Europe. And I didn't even have to. They recruited me to do this overseas internship. I designed a concept car. It was a Renault Fighter. And by 1986, when I was working at GIA, we went to the Paris Auto Show, and my car was on a turntable across from the Ford display. And I said, "Look, there's my car." was interesting to see something that you had done a couple of years ago in the full size and be on a turntable.
That's
It was
impressive.
actually the cover of the program too, and the posters around town. So I was really shocked. But it was a fun car. Spiders are very attractive. I mean, when you design a Spider, you're designing a car to be really, really attractive and something that people want to, you know, gather around and look. Even if you don't buy one, you always want to go look at the Spider.
Spider meaning an open 2-seat roadster sports car convertible, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Spider, like a little roadster 2-seater.
Mm-hmm. So you worked at Gia, then that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was fun to work out there. I worked there in '86 for the first time, and then I was there from '94 to '97, and then I came back and did some other projects there and other places in Torino with Ford as we developed concept cars and some of the work on the Ford GT.
Now, Tom Chiarda, who was responsible for the design of the Pantera, he was at Gia back then, wasn't he?
He was before me.
Okay.
That building had so much history. I mean, the Panteras came out of there, the Mangusta.
Mangusta, right.
And they used to have like this little showroom with a bunch of the cars from way back, you know, that you walk through that, you know, on the way to the shop. And their history is fantastic because Ford didn't get Gia until like, I think 73 or something. So for all the years before that, it was doing all kinds of vehicles, you know, across, you know, Europe and in U.S. too. It, you know, it's a building with a lot of history, and it was fantastic to be part of it and work there. And Torino is the motor city of Italy, so that was a lot of fun. It was a great city to be in and get to know and live there and really enjoy it properly. And Europe, the countries are also close so that, you know, you could go see your buddies at Stuttgart over the weekend, you know, the Porsche guys, or you can go to Monaco in a couple hours or whatever you want. And there's Formula One races left and right.
Interesting. Now, when you were Torino, you know, being the motor city of Italy, and then obviously the big car that's made there is the Fiat. Did you get a chance to wander off to Modena and Santa Agata? Is that with Lamborghini? And did you get to tour all those places as well, Ferrari and Lamborghini?
I went to Modena.
Okay.
But we didn't get to go in. But I did get a nice shirt from the shop.
Okay.
But I did have friends that worked at Fiat. That was a lot of fun. We'd hang out, you know, in Torino at night. There were a couple California surfers, to tell you the truth, you know, that they were working at Fiat. I found them at, you know, at a late night bar. You know, the Italians dragged me over and says, "Hey, we know some Americans." And it's like these two surfers that were working for Fiat. Like, oh, great. So now we're to be friends. And it was good. They both went back to LA. I got to go into the Pininfarina place quite a bit.
Oh.
Funny enough, with the Ford GT program. And then I used to know, I know Frank Stephenson. Frank and I worked together in Cologne. So while he was the director of Ferrari, you know, I met him at Pininfarina, and we also did other work with Pininfarina. It's a beautiful building, you know, the way it's laid out. There's glass on both ends, like in the lobby, so the light shines through. There's a beautiful Ferrari Piano da Forma on the wall of the 512 Speciale, which is one of my favorite Ferraris. And then they had just a great spread of cars. And they did give us a little bit of tour and, you know, some of the development rooms. But yeah, it's an incredible city with that energy, you know, of all these fantastic vehicles. And not only that, like the Motor City here puts out a lot of music and talent, DJs, you know, and famous famous rock stars. Torino does the same too. They have a great music scene.
Interesting.
So, and it's another city kind of created around a river. There's a river that runs through the middle, and everything's right downtown.
So a lot of parallels, a lot of similarities between Torino and Turin and Detroit. Let me ask you this: so you keep referencing Pininfarina and the Ford GT. Is there a connection there?
There was, because it was really interesting, and everything's so confidential. But my God, that's like 20 years ago. We were investigating doing the prototype with Pininfarina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was kind of confused. I was like, so what is this going to be, a combination of the two nations at war in Le Mans, the Ferrari and GT together in the future? And so we got to go there, review their place, take a really, really good look at their production line. Their F40 was, I had come out in '89, so it was more or less recent. The 360 was their state-of-the-art, the common car, the common Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And but then at the end of the day, my VP decided that we're just going to build a prototype here close to home. I'm like, wherever you want to build it, I'm fine.
How did you get tasked with the position of being the lead designer for the Ford GT?
All that, I think, started with the questions that you kind of asked about college.
Okay.
When we graduated, when I graduated, I want to make sure that I had a very advanced design portfolio. Like my drawings on the wall and my models, I wanted them to look like super future. So when they picked up two of us and they put us in the advanced design studio immediately, and we were put on a mid-engine car right away. So my career at Ford started with a mid-engine car, and we were working on it was called the GN34, and Ford purchased the Testarossa and drove it into our studio. That was fantastic. And then we got to drive it. We also had access to a 308, a 928, an MR2, Corvette. Everything was there. And all you had to do was just go get the keys. And the only keys you had to ask for was the Ferrari key. But the rest you could just grab off a hook and take it home. It was crazy. I think I caught the tail end of the madness. Anyways, so we did that, and then 10 years, that car didn't come to production. It got canceled. I was in Italy working. I got the notice that it got canceled because of the dollar exchange or some financial situation. And then 10 years later, my boss told me that we're going to start on this thing called the GT90. And I got to start doing all the homework for that and doing the drawings and the tape drawings and preparing for that project. That was supposed to be like a GT40 of the 90s. And then that car just ended up as just a concept car. And 10 years after that, the same director came up to me and said, Camillo, you're going to have to start the GT40. So I was like, this is fantastic. It's going to be my third mid-engine car. And some people are at Ford maybe 30, 40 years, and they never touch a mid-engine car.
To go back to the GT90, that was actually a prototype concept car with a 10-cylinder in it, wasn't it, originally?
Yeah, it was on a Jaguar XJ 220, and I believe they welded two 6-cylinders together.
Oh, okay.
I think I have to do my homework on that, but it was like there's certain cars that you call courtyard drivable. So they're governed. They're not engineered properly, so they're only good for like driving up on stage or driving to do a video shoot, those kind of things. So that was not a ultimate performance prototype. Neither was our Ford GT. they definitely governed that thing at 35. And I remember driving it on the track with the workhorse next to it. Obviously, the workhorse had to perform its speed, but we taped them together. But it's great to see your concept car go from that one of one prototype to the stage where it's developing into a production car, and then finally production cars that were at least the CP units in the cars that we did for Laguna Seca when we unveiled it to the press with Carol Shelby was there, Lennell was there, Jackie Stewart, Dan Gurney, everybody. I got to go on rides with those guys. They took me around the track at speed.
Oh wow! What a priceless experience.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I got a lot of photos of them. I got some really great shot of Carol Shelby and Jackie Stewart having a serious conversation. And, it's like the world of power. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, now I am told that even though it was 3-4 years in development, the actual production from the time that it was conceived that we're going to put this car in production and build one and get all the stuff finalized was what? A little over a year?
Yeah. I think that was probably the fastest I've seen going from concept to production. Concept car to production car that rolls out on the track was, I believe, 18 months, something like 15 or 18 months.
And Celine built the GTs, right? It was built in Celine's factory?
Yeah,
Steve?
the first thing that we did when we got the green light for production, that was about 2 months after the auto show, Bill Ford selected our car to be like a featured car for the Centennial.
I remember that.
He approached our engineers and asked, can you guys really do this? And of course they said yes. And well, thank God for the engineers that I was working with at the Advanced Design Studio. We worked really hard to do the concept car in a way that it represented a production vehicle. I mean, I was pissed off that the car was at that point it was not going to be a production car. They changed it just to a concept car because of a lot of problems that were going on at Ford and the world. 9/11 just happened, and we were having problems with the Explorer. And they said, we better scrap the production car, and we're committed for the concept car, at the auto show. So let's just finish that up.
Well, there was 3 cars at the Centennial in Detroit because I was there for that, and they rolled those up there, and that's when they also did the unveiling of the S197. The J. May, and did the new 95 and newer Mustang. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one big delivery. I remember that, and we had cars 1, 2, and 3 there, and that was kind of funny because that was the easiest selection of color. And Jay Mays asked me in his office, "Hey, because it took us so long to pick the yellow for the damn concept car." And he goes, "What do you think we should do the 3 cars?" And I just said red, white, and
blue. Yeah.
Okay, that's done. That's done. That was so fast.
Wow. Well, Camille, we're up against the clock here. So we got a little less than a minute left. Why don't you tell people, if they want to find out more about you, give some information as far as your social media and your website and stuff.
Well, unfortunately, I don't spend as much time on social media as I should.
Okay.
But you can find me. My website is CamilloPardo.com, or you could just email me direct at Camillo@CamilloPardo.com. So it's just my name.
Okay.
Super easy.
And then
it's one L.
And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's with 1 L, not 2.
Okay. And then also, but you know what? I'd love to have you back on the show again. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff that you've worked on. And then also this Detroit Auto Designers Night that you do that invites automobile designers from all over the world at your studio in Detroit. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've been doing that for quite a while. We did our 23rd annual, and we'll find people here like Giugiaro and the VPs of GM, Ford, and Chrysler, and Willie Davison used to hang out here. It's a mix of the world, designers all under one roof for that one night.
That's pretty cool.
You're welcome to come.
We'll have to do that. That and the other one I want to participate in is the Eyes on Design. That's supposed to be pretty fantastic as well.
Yeah, that's a great show, and it's at the Eleanor Estate. There's usually a party associated with that. This year we had Peter Brock won the Lifetime Achievement thing there. A lot of very important people have won their Lifetime Achievement at that function. I've done the poster once, and I'm ready to do it again. It was a fun piece.
Well, Camilo, I want to thank you for hanging out with us here at Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Love to have you back on again. Hopefully I'll see you at some of the shows. I'll be out at Seaman, probably Monterey, and that's where I usually see you kind of hanging out with some of your cool cars. And we'll have you back. We'll talk more about cars and design. How about that?
Sounds good, Bobby.
Okay. You take care, okay? And a Happy New Year to you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
I want to thank my very special guest, Camilo Pardo, designer for Ford Motor Company. He's now a pretty well-known designer, has his own design studio in Detroit, futuristic drawings, furniture, cars. Look him up. He's a great guy, swell guy, very approachable, very easy to talk to. I want to thank all my listeners for tuning into Nostalgic Radio and Cars that we get every Tuesday night between 7 and 8 p.m. on the Tan Talk Radio Network. You can find us here in downtown Clearwater doing our thing, talking about cars. We got some great guests coming up for you this year. Okay, we got some more designers, more car stuff, more race car drivers, musicians, and a lot of cool stuff. And don't forget to check out some of the car shows that are coming up. Go to our website. We got a lot of stuff posted on there. And don't forget to check out flacarshows.com. In the meantime, thank you very much, Bobby, for your production. And stay safe, drive carefully, and love your family.
We go eat day to day, hour to hour, day straight, deep and wide. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through, bring on through, bring on through, bring on through. Hey, 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 hey.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
WZHR, Zephyrhills.
FM 104.3.
Sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper in Chicago. California skies are calmer after weeks of atmospheric rivers, and President Biden will soon head there.